Have you noticed something strange? Good men everywhere have gone silent. Not because they stopped caring, but because something in modern dating broke them. And if you're a man watching this, you've probably felt that silence growing inside you too. It's that moment where you realize you're not having conversations anymore. You're managing emotional landmines. You're filtering every word, every tone, every reaction. Not to communicate, but to avoid the next explosion. And at some point, you start asking yourself a question you never thought you'd ask. Why does being with someone feel harder than being alone? This isn't trauma. This isn't men can't handle emotions. Psychologists are seeing the same pattern everywhere. Men aren't withdrawing because they're cold. They're withdrawing because they're overwhelmed. Modern dating has turned into a place where one small disagreement can spiral into a history lesson of everything you've ever done wrong, where your intentions no longer matter, only her interpretation. And slowly, men learn that silence is safer than honesty. Before we go deeper, take 1 second and hit that like button. Not for me, but because the algorithm buries conversations men actually need. Your engagement forces the system to keep this discussion alive. Now, let's break down the psychology behind why so many men are choosing silence, and why more of them are walking away from relationships entirely. Part 1. The Great Silence. Why men are quietly checking out. You've probably noticed something happening among men today. Something subtle, quiet, and almost invisible unless you're looking for it. Men aren't blowing up. They're not storming out. They're not creating chaos. They're just shutting down. Not because they don't care, but because they've realized that caring comes with a cost they can't afford anymore. Across the country, good men, men who used to communicate, put in effort, try to fix things, are withdrawing into a kind of emotional stillness. And here's the part no one talks about. They didn't start out this way. These men used to show up. They used to open up. They used to try maybe harder than they should have. But over time, they learned a painful truth. Every time they expressed themselves, it somehow made things worse. A simple concern would turn into a 3-hour argument. A small need would be labeled selfish. A boundary would be called controlling. So eventually, they stopped trying. Psychologists call this learned relational helplessness, when repeated emotional pushback trains someone to stay silent, because silence causes less damage than honesty. It's not weakness. It's adaptation. And it's happening everywhere. Men aren't disappearing. They're conserving themselves, their words, their energy, their sanity. Because somewhere along the line, the relationship stopped feeling like a partnership and started feeling like a test they could never pass. And the truth is, most men don't walk away suddenly. They walk away quietly, after months or even years of shutting down internally. Long before they leave physically, they've already left emotionally. That is the Great Silence. Not an explosion, but an erosion. A slow, steady retreat from a dynamic that no longer feels safe to speak in. And for many men, that silence becomes the first step towards something much bigger. Part 2. Emotional escalation. A psychological pattern, not a gender attack. Let's break down something most men have experienced. You bring up a practical issue, and the conversation becomes emotional fast. Psychologists call this emotional flooding. It is a state where someone becomes overwhelmed and shifts the conversation from logic to emotion as a defense mechanism. Often, it's not deliberate. It's conditioned. For a lot of women and some men, this becomes a pattern. The tears appear when the conversation gets uncomfortable. Anger spikes when accountability shows up. Confusion enters when clarity feels threatening. Again, this doesn't mean she's manipulating you. It means the relationship has fallen into a cycle where emotion overrides communication. I once coached a client who couldn't complete a single financial discussion with his girlfriend. Not because she was evil or trying to control him, but because she had learned since childhood that tears end conflict faster than dialogue. 2 years later, they were $30,000 in debt. Not because of malice, but because avoidance replaced communication. This is what psychologists call secondary gain, when a behavior gets reinforced because it works, not because it's planned. Part 3. The unspoken rules men feel but can't articulate. Modern relationships often operate on unspoken expectations. 1. The mind-reading myth. If you loved me, you'd know what I need. But humans aren't wired for telepathy. Even the best relationships rely on clear communication. Yet many men are expected to meet standards they were never told existed. 2. Emotional primacy. In many households, feelings aren't just important, they're treated as objective truth. If she feels disrespected, then you disrespected her. If she feels unloved, then you didn't love her. Intent becomes irrelevant. History becomes irrelevant. Only the feeling survives. Psychologists call this emotional reasoning, when emotions replace facts as the basis for judgment. 3. The response double standard. One partner can express emotion intensely, yelling, crying, slamming objects. But if the man raises his voice once, he's labeled dangerous. This isn't conspiracy. It's the product of social conditioning, where male emotion is treated as threat and female emotion is treated as expression. Men aren't crazy for feeling this imbalance. They're noticing a pattern culture refuses to talk about. Part 4. The rational exit. Why men quietly walk away. Here's the part no one wants to admit. Most men don't leave because they stopped caring. They leave because they've run the numbers. Psychologists call it cost-benefit withdrawal. If every conversation becomes a minefield, if every disagreement becomes an accusation, if every emotional spike becomes a crisis, eventually, peace starts to look like freedom. And when men walk away, they're discovering something surprising. Life without chaos is good. Life without constant emotional management is peaceful. Life where your money, time, and attention are your own feels like breathing again. This isn't cowardice. This isn't men avoiding responsibility. It's men choosing stability over unpredictability, clarity over confusion, growth over depletion, peace over emotional turbulence. And here's the truth modern culture can't accept. Walking away isn't quitting. Sometimes it's the most rational decision a man can make, because you're not rejecting love. You're rejecting dysfunction. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. Modern men are finally putting language to what they've silently carried for decades. Drop a comment, share your experience, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.